Hello everyone. In this video we're going to be making a return to the series where I discuss the anatomy of skulls of different animals and birds, and in this video in particular we're going to be looking at the skull of this large macaw and examine what makes macaw and parrot skulls so unique from other bird species. Before we dive into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Well recognised and admired the world over, these colourful birds are exceptionally powerful and intelligent animals. The macaws are the largest of the parrot family, with the largest of all macaw species being the hyacinth macaw pictured here. From the tiniest parakeet or budgerigar right up to the largest macaws, the parrot family varies greatly in size and coloration, but when it comes to their skeletal anatomy, particularly their skulls, they are more or less very similar, and so this video using this macaw skull shall discuss the anatomical traits shared by this family group. So this impressive looking skull belongs to one of the larger macaw species. I'm not exactly sure what species it is. It might be a hyacinth macaw, which is the largest of all macaws in the world, although I could be wrong. You can see there in my hand to scale. It's a very large skull. It's at least 6 or 7.5 centimeters long from back to front and almost as high from the bottom to the top, so considerably larger than any other bird skull I have so far. And it is just enormous in terms of the size of the beak and also the size of the brain case, which is this area here, which definitely makes it stand out compared to some other skulls I've featured. So when looking at the skull of a large macaw like this, the first thing that grabs your attention is this enormous and very powerful hooked down curved beak with this incredibly large upper mandible here. One thing to bear in mind though is that in real life this beak would probably be even longer and larger in appearance, mostly because this is only the bony interior of the beak itself. In life this would be covered in a keratin sheath, which is the same for pretty much all birds, which is the same material that makes up our fingernails, for example, which is extra hard, and it grows continuously throughout their lives and wearing away. So in life this beak would be considerably longer, especially on this part of the bill. Being the most powerful and dexterous part of their physical anatomy, large macaws, as well as all the other species of parrots, use their beaks for a wide range of different physical activities throughout their daily lives. Macaws, as well as virtually all other species of the parrot family with a few exceptions, are primarily vegetarian in nature. They feed on a wide range of fruits, leaves and nuts in their diet, although this does vary somewhat from species to species. When tackling the toughest of fruits and nuts, the true dexterity and power of a macaw's beak can be seen firsthand. They can easily manipulate pieces of food in their powerful clawed feet, while using their enlarged upper and lower mandibles to easily split open the hardest of shells, an effort which many other animals would find very difficult. As birds that primarily live in rainforest habitats, macaws are also exceptionally good at climbing. Along with their powerful zygodactyl feet, zygodactyl refers to birds that have 2 toes pointing forwards and 2 toes pointing backwards on each foot, which is exceptionally good for grasping around cylindrical objects. Macaws will also use their very large bill to pull themselves up along tree branches, almost acting as a third limb. To give you some idea of the physical strength of these birds, large parrots will sometimes hang by an object with their beak and literally swing around their entire body weight while their body is suspended. It seems sometimes they do this to get their handler's attention if it's in captivity, or maybe just for the fun of it. Another well-known behaviour of macaws and parrots in the wild is to visit clay lick deposits in the rainforest, where they will use their large beaks to dig out and consume clay to neutralise toxins that they may have consumed from feeding on different vegetation. Larger macaws will also sometimes use their beaks to crack open small rocks to extract vital mineral salts. Another use of a macaw's large and powerful beak is to dig out holes in tree trunks of which to nest. Tearing apart wood is such an ingrained instinctive behaviour in macaws that even captive birds will sometimes tear apart the wood of branches simply for the fun of it seems. With such a sharp and formidable beak combined with tremendous bite force, the macaw's beak is also an exceptionally powerful defence mechanism, and these birds can deliver the most powerful crushing bite. A large macaw therefore can be a potentially dangerous animal if provoked, as they can deliver a bite force comparable to that of some large dog breeds, around 500 to 700 pounds of force per square inch of pressure. So compared to even other bird species, macaws have an incredibly strong and dense skull with these masses of bone and these incredibly large and powerful jaws with, of course, this huge beak attached both on the upper and lower mandible, which is one of the main reasons why they have such a powerful bite. And also they would have masses of muscle attaching to these areas here, which would form these temporalis and masseter muscle areas, enabling them to move this lower jaw. Unfortunately, I can't move it with this specimen, it's fused shut, but that would yet again give these birds a tremendously powerful range of movement with their mandibles, and by the time all that energy reaches the end of this beak, the force is going to be even greater. So it's certain that large macaws and other larger parrots have an extremely powerful set of jaws and a very robust skull, but they also have very flexible jaws as well, much more so than many people realise. So there's a thing known as Craniokinesis, which I think I've touched on in previous videos, which basically means the animal involved has the ability to basically flex and move its jaws around its brain case, or separate from its brain case, which is this area here, where the brain and the eyes and the other vital areas are. Now when you look at this macaw skull, you can see this distinctive groove separating the front of the orbital sinus, the front of the brain case if you will, from this entire area here of the beak and where the nasal passages are. Now in life, there'll be strong muscles and ligaments attached here, and they also attach to this long thin bone along here, which I believe is known as a pterygoid bone. And this separation here means that in life, a macaw can actually project this upper mandible directly outwards and away from the skull, with the help of the muscles, with this bone pushing forward as well, which means these birds can also open their mouths extremely wide, and combined with the lower jaw, they can also manipulate objects in their mouths, so when they're feeding on a nut, for example, and they can also move their jaws independently, which combined with having a very long and flexible tongue, is also one of the reasons why macaws and other parrots are so good at mimicking human speech, because they can manipulate their mouths to imitate the kind of movement that our lips would generate, for example, when we're speaking, which is one of the main reasons why macaws can speak so well and mimic human speech so well, even though their mouths are completely different from ours. The other main feature that you can see on this macaw skull is that the size of the actual cranium or brain case, so the area separate from the jaws and the mouth, is incredibly large, extremely large cranial cavity, which compared to even other birds is particularly noticeable. And that of course correlates to the fact that these birds, even by bird standards, have a particularly large brain, because of course we all know that parrots and macaws are among the most highly intelligent birds. They're highly social, and so they're incredibly adept at communicating. Of course, they can mimic human speech and other noises, but they are also incredibly good at problem solving and a range of other activities, which of course is very well known amongst those who have experience with parrots of any kind. So just a bit of comparison here. Here's the skull of a northern or common raven, which is a skull I featured in a previous video, which represents the corvids or the crow family. And of course, here's the large macaw skull. You can see they're roughly the same sort of length from back to front, but you can see the macaw skull is considerably taller, mostly because the macaw's got the much thicker beak and much more pronounced lower jaw, which just goes to show that they have different beaks for different uses. This is a bird that has a beak that's used for a range of purposes. It's almost like a multi-tool, which it uses to peck and to forage and to dig apart the ground or to feed on all kinds of foods. They're quite omnivorous corvids. Macaws and parrots, on the other hand, are more vegetarian in nature. They feed more on fruit and nuts, although they can give a very powerful bite. This is a bird that's not as well suited for pecking. This is a bird that bites rather than pecks. And you can see that, of course, in terms of its crushing power, the macaw has the distinct advantage. Both birds have particularly large craniums, which indicates that they have incredibly large brains for their size, which of course is true in that both corvids and parrots are considered to be the most intelligent of birds, and also to have the largest brain to body mass ratio. Both species are well known for both being good at problem solving, imitating speech and all kinds of other sounds, and also being highly social with their own kind, as well as other species, i.e. humans, that interact with them. So they're both incredibly intelligent and resourceful birds that they have very different physical anatomical traits which work well in different environments. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this brief informative video discussing the skull anatomy of birds like this macaw and this raven for comparison. Stay tuned for more videos like this to come in the future. Until next time, I'll see you in the next one.